Back here, WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station. Let's go out to the phones right now as we welcome in the always talented Sports Illustrated NFL writer and NFL insider for Football Night in America, and that's my good buddy Peter King. Peter, Zach Gelb here, Temple Sports Hour. How are you?
Hey, Zach, you've got great bumper music there. Congratulations.
I know that you love Bruce Springsteen. You were at the Fenway concert.
I've only been to see him 24 times. That makes me a Bruce nerd.
Well, yeah, I'm a big-time Bruce Springsteen fan, and so is my father, as you probably know. And we were actually at the show here in Philadelphia. It was phenomenal. We had Rosalita playing, Thunder Road, and the boss is still kicking it at 60 years old.
Was that an outdoor show? Was that Citizens Bank, or where was it?
It was Citizens Bank. I was always told the best place to see Bruce was in Philadelphia. It was at Citizens Bank. It was an outside show, and the boss rocked it for 3 hours and 45 minutes. It's still incredible how he does it at the age of 60.
Yeah, he's like the Pete Rose of the of the rock set. He's really unbelievable. And you know what? I mean, I first saw him in 1976, and it's amazing. He hasn't changed. If anything, his show is even longer than it used to be. So some things in life seem to just get better, so it's cool.
You live in New York right now, outside of Manhattan. What's the scene out there right now?
Oh, well, it's a beautiful day today, but obviously tremendous amount of strife. You know, it's funny, my buddy Adam Schefter, who works for ESPN, we were talking yesterday, and there's still 211,000 homes on Long Island, which hasn't really gotten a lot of attention, you know, without power, many of which are damaged as well, you know, from all the water. So I don't know. I think this is going to be a very, very long time before an awful lot of people in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut get their lives back.
What are some NFL teams doing to help the victims? I saw the Jets. They made a nice check out the other day.
Yeah, the Jets, the Giants, and Stephen Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, have all given $500,000. The league as a whole has given $1 million. I thought it was really great that Charles Woodson of the Packers, who really has no connection to this area. You know, he's not from the Northeast or anything. He wrote a check for $100,000 out of his foundation. So there's been a lot of generous people doing nice things.
We're talking to Peter King of Football Night in America, and always the talented Sports Illustrated writer, Monday Morning Quarterback. I love reading that stuff. And Peter, you see this, one of the best stories here in the NFL so far this year, as we're going to shift gears a little bit, has been the Indianapolis Colts. This team's playing with a lot of emotions with everything that happened with their head coach, and you've seen Andrew Luck in his development. It's just been a phenomenal story. They get a victory once again last night.
I think the thing that is so good about it is that it just shows that in the NFL, you know, you're capable of turning things around pretty quickly as long as you have a good plan, a good general manager to execute that plan, and obviously you've got to have some hope at quarterback. And, I mean, the emotion for Chuck Pagano as he tries to recover from leukemia is one thing, but, you know, emotion only takes you so far. And I think one of the things that we're seeing right now is that Andrew Luck is the kind of all-around quarterback that very few teams have in the NFL. You've seen that he's been able to run the ball. Last night, 2 more touchdown runs. And that's something that's a part of his game that's really going to hold him in good stead over the years, I think.
And even so, you look around the whole NFL, there's so many rookie quarterbacks that are having some success this year. Ryan Tannehill in Miami, Russell Wilson out in Seattle, RG3 in Washington. The future for the NFL at the quarterback position definitely looks bright.
I think so many young players, so many young quarterbacks have been able to do well quickly because you've seen the development of these guys going back to college football, and even going back to high school football when they played in the 7-on-7 passing leagues. That's what Andy Dalton of the Bengals credits a lot of his success to. Ryan Tannehill did the same thing. A lot of quarterbacks in Texas and in California and in Florida are playing in these passing leagues all summer long and playing with some advanced concepts, advanced passing concepts. So I think that's been a really good idea and a good developmental tool for them.
The job that Bruce Arians has done, the former Temple head coach in the 80s, filling in for Chuck Pagano after what's happened with his illness, finding a way to get this team already with 6 victories on the year after they had a dreadful season last year. I would have to imagine, I know he's at 60 years old, he hasn't had a head coaching job in a while at the full-time rate, that Bruce Arians is going to be on a lot of teams' list this year in the offseason.
I think he's probably going to get an interview or two. I'd be surprised if he didn't. But, you know, I think one of the interesting things is going to be, you know, if the Colts keep playing this well, is it possible that an interim coach could get votes for Coach of the Year? I mean, it's never happened in NFL history before, but I think if they keep playing this well, it's going to be, I'm really going to have to start thinking about whether you can vote for Chuck Pagano / Bruce Arians as the Coach of the Year. I think as each week goes by and you see the story that the Colts are writing, I mean, they go to New England next weekend. Imagine if they go to Foxborough and they beat the Patriots. Then not only do you have to start thinking about them in terms of awards and Coach of the Year and things like that, you have to start thinking of them in terms of, you know, being a force in the playoffs. So this is, they're writing a great story right now in Indy.
I saw someone put up a statistic yesterday that if the season was to end today, that it would be the Colts and the Broncos squaring off. I bet you the NFL would love that matchup if you had Manning going up against Luck.
Yeah, and, you know, if it isn't that, it could be Luck against Brady. So it's, I mean, look, Manning against Luck might be the highest-rated wild card game in history. But, I mean, look, the NFL is going to have great storylines in January, no matter who plays who. But that would really be rich.
Zach Gelb here, WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station, talking to Peter King from Sports Illustrated. And Peter, let's go to the Eagles. Michael Vick, there's been a lot of talks so far about his job. What's the status of that? He's going to start this week, but how close is he to going to the bench?
Well, I think he'd have to play really poorly on Sunday. I mean, look, the offensive line in front of him is, you know, relatively speaking, with the exception really of Evan Mathis. I mean, that's basically a backup offensive line. Now that Harriman's is gone, you know, you lose Jason Peters and Harriman's and Jason Kelsey from that offensive line from the beginning of the year, or from what it looked like in the off season. That is a huge, huge disadvantage. So to me, I think that you're going to have to see how he plays. I mean, if they lose the game and he plays poorly and turns it over, you know, who knows? I've said all along that I think at some point this year they're going to go to Nick Foles, just because, you know, Vick is just simply too careless with the football. But I just think you have to see how he plays before you make any blanket statements, because that's the way Andy Reid's going to treat it.
Like you said, the offensive line has been a mess, but Vick has to find a way to hold on to that football, not throw that interception, not cough up the ball in the red zone, and they're going to struggle this week up against DeMarcus Ware. But if they do go to Nick Foles, what does he bring to the table in Peter King's estimation?
Oh, just that, you know, the one thing I know the Eagles loved about him in the preseason is that he never, no situation was, you know, was too big for him, or, you know, made him even remotely nervous or tight. I think he really felt like, I think the Eagles really felt like this was a guy who, if he had to play this year for whatever reason, they weren't very nervous about it. And that's one of the reasons why he became their backup. I think no matter what you say about Michael Vick, you know that if Michael Vick is your starting quarterback, A, he's got a good chance of getting hurt at some point in the year. He's only played one 16-game season in his career. And B, as you're seeing right now, he can be a tremendously inconsistent player. And I think that multiplied with the fact that
his offensive line is really struggling right now, that those are going to be things that this team, Andy Reid's going to have to take that into account when he decides, should I put Nick Foles in there behind a bad offensive line, or should I keep the veteran in there? And I think as long as Vick doesn't turn it over, he's probably going to be inclined to play Vick.
And the big talk here on Philadelphia radio that we get from our callers day in and day out is they want Michael Vick out of here. They want to see some Nick Foles, similar to what we saw a few years ago with Kevin Cobb and when you saw Donovan McNabb leaving. And then also they want Andy Reid on his way out. How close do you think what does the Eagles coach have to do to keep his job this year?
I think the team has to play a lot better in the second half than it played in the first half. I think if you're Jeffrey Lurie right now, if you see a second half the way you saw the first half, and they go 6-10, 7-9, I think Lurie will make a change. And it's just that you wonder after 14 years whether the message is getting old. I'm sure that's what's going through Jeff Lurie's mind right now.
We're talking to Peter King, and Peter, they're playing the Cowboys this week, big-time game. DeMarco Murray, what's the status of him?
I think the Cowboys, just from what I read yesterday, I think the Cowboys are hoping he plays, but really want to see him go through some practice drills today. When they go out there this afternoon, they're practicing, I think, about noon Central Time. So I think they want to see him, do something in practice. But I'll tell you what, the Dallas running game has really hurt Tony Romo this year. It's one of the reasons why I thought that Jerry Jones should have gone out and paid to bring in Steven Jackson, because I thought they needed a bruising running back who could take some of the pressure off Tony Romo.
Do you think it was a mistake of the Philadelphia Eagles to go out there and fire Juan Castillo? That we've been hearing a lot of mistakes this week in the media that, people are regretting that decision.
Well, I mean, look, the way it was handled, he seemed like a scapegoat. There's no question about it. Obviously, Andy Reid did not like the sort of the vanilla stuff that was happening on defense. He didn't like Trent Cole and Jason Babin having their production significantly down from last year. He wanted to have a more imaginative defensive scheme than Castillo was going to run. Was it a mistake? Time will tell, but Todd Bowles' first 2 weeks really haven't been good.
Peter, thanks so much for the time. I appreciate it. Let's get you on again real soon. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Zach. Take care.